welcome to the Power Zone Sports Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about
the playoff picture is set in the NFL.
Please like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter. A link will be down below. And I'll give this podcast to my brother. And also have a Happy New Year.
Well, 17 weeks of the NFL regular season have gone by the wayside. And now we can tell you who will be playing in January for the playoffs and who will not be playing, who will be going home. And one of the teams that will be going home will be the completely dysfunctional Dallas Cowboys. They finished the season a very disappointing 8-win, 8-loss season, a .500 record. And they started the year 3-0 on the season, but only finishing 8-8. They only won 5 more games on the season after that. It's really disappointing that the Cowboys couldn't get it done this year. And I think if you're Jerry Jones, you've got to fire. You've got to make heads roll. You've got to get rid of everybody. Jason Garrett, 10 years, no trips beyond the divisional playoff round when they made it into the postseason. I think Jason Garrett has to go by the wayside. I think the coaches all need to go as well. I would get rid of everybody. I would clean house from top to bottom. We would see who they want to bring in to replace Jason Garrett. Nothing has been said as of yet. Maybe in a couple of days that will probably change. But the Dallas Cowboys, they are in free fall mode right now. What will happen with Dak Prescott? I think the Cowboys are probably going to franchise tag him. They're going to keep him under contract for one more season and see if maybe with a new coaching staff around him, if Dak Prescott can lead Dallas to a playoff appearance. If not, then Dak Prescott is probably gone from the Cowboys. So we will see what the Cowboys want to do. But this team could look drastically different next season. No Sean Lee at linebacker. Van Der Esch is having medical issues as well. They are expecting him to come back healthy next season. But it's going to be a team that could potentially look very different from the team that took the field this season. And the Cowboys are, a billion-dollar franchise. But imagine how much more they would be worth if they'd actually won a couple of Super Bowls this decade. At the same time, the Dallas Cowboys have been dormant from the Super Bowl, from the Vince Lombardi Championship Trophy. The New England Patriots have managed to come in, and they have managed to win 6 Super Bowls in that same time frame. And why do the Patriots win 6 Super Bowls in that time frame? I believe it's because the owner, Robert Kraft, lets Bill Belichick be the coach, and that is the end of it. You don't see Robert Kraft every week making statements on the state of his team. It's a much different dynamic in Foxborough than it is in Dallas. In Foxborough, they let the results of the team do the talking. And if you ever watch a Bill Belichick press conference, it's the most boring thing in the world because he is desperately not wanting to tip his hand. He doesn't want to give too much information to an opponent. Even when they are hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, Bill Belichick is still the most boring interview you will ever hear. But he doesn't want to give away too much information about even next week, even next season. It is going to be very interesting to see what the Cowboys do next year. I've heard Urban Meyer might come to Dallas. I've heard a few names. Jason Garrett is probably gone. Chris Richard, the Cowboys offensive, or one of these coordinators, is going to interview for the New York Giants job. Quite frankly, Jason Garrett, I had high hopes for Jason Garrett. 10 seasons ago when we hired him and got rid of Wade Phillips, I was hoping that someone who was in the Dallas Cowboys system when the Cowboys had hoisted those Lombardi trophies, I hoped that Jason Garrett would be the man to lead the Cowboys back to greatness. But that turned out to not happen. And the Cowboys, they are a mess right now. Their defense was a mess for most of the second half of the season after Leighton Vander Esch went out, and even their kicking situation was for most of the season was just bizarre, as you had a kicker in Brent Maher who could make kicks from 60 yards away, but could not make one from half that distance. Just a crazy season it was in Dallas this year. And if I'm Jerry Jones, if the Cowboys need to pretty much start from the bottom and just rebuild. The Cowboys in 1989 were 1-15 in 1989 in the first season under Jimmy Johnson, but that Cowboys team eventually ended up becoming the team of the 90s with Super Bowl victories in 1992, 1993, and 1995. And the Cowboys are going to need to, I think this team needs to start to hit bottom again, even though hitting bottom would waste a year of Dak's development and also waste a year of Ezekiel Elliott running the football. So maybe not next year, but this Cowboys team, they're going to have to eventually hit bottom, even though mediocrity is unacceptable if you wear the star in Dallas. But we will see what happens with this team. They are a mess, and they just need to go through a rebuild the proper way. And I don't know if this fan base, especially now in the social media age, I don't know if they have the patience to go through a modern rebuild. But if they don't have the patience to go through a modern rebuild, well, they're just going to keep watching teams like the Steelers, teams like the Patriots, surpass them in the Lombardi Trophy category. And honestly, the player that I am most disappointed in that they did not, the player who I think regressed most in this season was the Cowboys' legendary tight end Jason Witten. Jason Witten is a Hall of Famer. Jason Witten is perhaps the greatest tight end to ever play the game of football. But he rapidly regressed during the season. It became to the point, especially in that game against the Patriots, the Jason Witten just could not catch anything. It seemed like he was only capable of being a blocking tight end. The rapid regression, the rapid decline in the football abilities of Jason Witten as a receiving tight end, where he was so solidly Mr. Reliable for Tony Romo, and it really was disappointing to see. But Jason Witten, I don't think Jason Witten will come back this season. I think he has had enough, and I think hopefully Jason Witten will get a position in the Dallas Cowboys. I would support Jason Witten getting maybe an offensive coordinator gig. I think Jason Witten has a great mind for the game, and I would hate to see that talent and mind for the game be wasted. But Jason Witten, one of the greatest tight ends of all time. I really respect Jason Witten a lot, and he was a great tight end, and he's one of the greatest tight ends of all time, and his blocking ability was always really good, but his pass catching ability was what set him apart from most. Every time Tony Romo needed 9 yards on third down, Jason Witten would get you 10 yards and a first down. Jason Witten. And I'll never forget that play against the Eagles where Jason Witten made the catch, lost his helmet, and then kept on running. That's a picture that will live on forever in the annals of the Cowboys and the Eagles rivalry. But it was the Eagles this season who eliminated the Cowboys from winning the NFC East. And then even though the Cowboys won the final game of the season, well, the Giants couldn't get it done against the Eagles, and the Eagles won the NFC Eastern Division Championship. And every time the Cowboys team needed to get a stop defensively this season or needed to get a big play on the offensive end, they were just incapable of doing so. So as much as I initially liked, offensive coordinator Kellen Moore and the rest of those guys, I think a top-to-bottom clean-out is going to be the only thing that will let the Cowboys get them back to their prominent position of the 90s, perhaps. So we'll see. But the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know if they've hit bottom yet, but they're going to have to hit bottom eventually if they want to get back to the top of the National Football League. And that is what every Dallas Cowboys fan wants. They want to see their team win. They want to see their team hoisting on their Lombardi trophy again. And unfortunately, it's going to be a while before that happens again. 4 games on the schedule for Wild Card Weekend. We've got Buffalo Bills taking on the Houston Texans in the first game, and the nightcap Tennessee Titans taking on the wild card New England Patriots, who lost to the Dolphins, and so instead of getting that first round bye, well, they're playing in the wild card. And the game's on Sunday: Minnesota taking on New Orleans, and Seattle taking on Philadelphia. And here's my picks to win these games today. I'm going to go with the Texans over the Bills. I'm going to go with the Patriots over the Titans. I'm going to go with the Saints over the Vikings. And I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the Eagles. So there you go, my predictions for Wild Card Weekend. And enjoy the games. They should all be fun to watch. Should all be exciting.